All right, so today's deep dive webinar is all about designing with our NV series endpoints, which are networked video endpoints, which have a combination of HDMIs and USB bridging, and we'll go through the three different models that we have and their functionalities and what they all can do. There we go. So to start out here, which kind of give a little overview as far as what Q-SYS is. So Q-SYS is a full stack AV platform. So everything from the endpoints all the way up to the cloud, we have everything to give you a solution for any big integrated spaces, high impact spaces, smaller conference rooms, medium conference rooms, anything you kind of need. So on this left side here is kind of the three different levels or the three different layers to our platform. So the multimodal I/O, so that would be all of our endpoint products. So whether that's a core or any of our products, I guess, so that whether there be a core processor that runs our systems, any of our amplifiers, which we have analog and networked amplifier options. Our loudspeakers also have networked and analog loudspeakers. Our video devices, such as our NV devices that we're talking about today, and then also our series, which are our network cameras, and then licenses that go along with it that allow certain endpoints and it expands certain functionalities for certain endpoints through extra feature licenses. All of that is powered by our intelligent platform OS, so the Q-SYS OS, which is our software that helps define what our devices are going to do based off their physical I/O they have, and then also how you want them to function within the system. And then that's all driven, all powered up, or all goes up to our cognitive cloud, which is our Reflect, which gives you our full, remote monitoring management, being able to get into systems and troubleshoot remotely or monitor remotely, all through the cloud. We have many partners also with Q-SYS, so anything that we don't natively provide through Q-SYS products, we have many partners that supply those products to kind of round out our whole platform that we integrate well with. And then Q-SYS is an open platform to where we have our designer software. We have a full UCI editor that's drag and drop and very customizable as far as how you want to function. We have what says Q-SYS Asset Manager, which we still do have, but we are now transitioning to what we're calling Q-SYS Library, which is a online web-based essentially asset manager where you're able to go grab any third-party plugins that we support or just any plugins that help the functionality of your system. You're able to log in to your library, be able to check out any plugins that you want. You will then go into your Designer 10.1 and above, log in through that, and you'll start seeing your plugins auto-populate. So we're now kind of managing our plugins through a library that's web-based versus just an asset manager, which is only in Designer. We obviously support software Dante and AES 67. We have a full scripting background that you can do to fully customize anything that you want. And then we also are an open API, so we're able to talk to any third-party devices. Any third-party devices can talk to us in any way, shape, or form that you need that fit. Our Reflect is also a full open API as well. So if you have any customers that have their own managed service for monitoring or anything like that, and they want to grab any information from our Reflect platform, they're fully able to do that in any way, shape, or form that they want. So I will kind of dive in now after the overview of the Q-SYS platform to the more specifically our NV series.
Hey, before you dive into that, Sam, could you
Yeah.
do me a favor? You're showing up twice on everybody's screens.
Okay.
So one of you, if you can make one of you go away,
Um, that might be. Let me see.
if you can't, then please, folks on the far end, maybe as responded here in the Q&A, grab your Q&A pop out, maybe pop that over at the Sam that you don't want to see.
I guess I can't see where I'm showing and or what are the two places that I'm showing?
So when you're under sh shared content, you should be able to eliminate that. If not, let's just keep going, and folks can just maybe drink their
Um,
drink.
Is that better?
There you are.
Okay.
That's good. Perfect.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for letting us know.
So we'll start off with our NV32H. So NV, as far as the nomenclature, as far as how our NV products work, so NV is networked video, and then the 32 is your inputs and outputs. So it's a three in by two out box, and then H stands for that it's HDMI only as far as the video inputs and outputs. So the NV32H can be a core. It can also be an encoder or decoder. And then we also have a feature license called the core streaming license that allows our 32s to be a core and an encoder or decoder. And we'll kind of talk through how that works as we go through these slides here. As I said, it can be a core mode or peripheral mode is that encoder and decoder part. Um, the advantage to our NV series, obviously it gives us Q-SYS HDMI native capability. But as far the other advantage is that they're all software definable as far as how a single box can function. So one box can function in many different ways, all defined through software, instead of having to go to the device, by itself, whether it's through a web GUI or anything like that, and configure it that way. It's all defined within our designer software. So this is what the back of the NV32H looks like. So I'll kind of go right to left here. So you can see there's two HDMI outs there. There's three HDMI ins. And then you have this USB-B, which is a th USB 3.0. This USB allows any AV bridging. So when I say AV bridging, that's taking any of our native cameras and any audio processing that's done within our cores and allows a computer to plug into that USB and use the room system as or the room's microphones and cameras as their conferencing endpoints or devices. So this allows for full BYOD capability. This also allows if you guys have dedicated Teams or Zooms or Google Meet computes that would also give you your camera and mics through the USB-B. Just full AV bridging and fully routable throughout our Q-SYS platform. In the middle here, we have two analog audio. We have one analog in and one analog audio out. Those are 3.5 analog audio or analog ports. So it allows you to either plug in a mic or if you're wanting to route audio to an analog speaker, you take audio out of this NV32. Just many different options there. You also have RS-232, so that will allow you, to control any third-party device, whether that's a display or a lighting system or an HVAC system, kind of whatever, however you want to use that in that space. You have the option there. You do have GPIO, so you have two GPIO ins or GPIs, which are GPI ins, and GPO three GPOs, which allows you any GPIO out. So if that's for any microphone LED control or any GPI needs that you need within a space, you do have the ability still on this one single device. You do have four USB-A ports. So the USB-A ports allow for any speakerphone to be go into Q-SYS as far as if there is any microphone that you have that doesn't have any drivers needed, you're able to use our USB-A ports to then be able to route the audio within Q-SYS and then route it out to wherever you need that to go. Also with the USB-As, you have HID routing. So you're able to control any device that are you able to control any far-end device with any, local HID. So whether that's keyboard and mouse, or a touch screen or something like that, think of a good application would be you have a rack PC that is connected to a different USB-A within our platform. And then let's say you have a keyboard and mouse locally in the room connected to this ME32. You're then able to remotely control that rack PC with that HDMI or with the keyboard and mouse without having to do any USB extension or anything like that. You're also able to route that USB. So if you had two rack PCs and one set of a keyboard and mouse, you were able to flip back and forth as far as which ones you want to control. You do have two LAN ports here. So LAN A would be is your main LAN port. So that's anything Q-SYS related, QLAN audio, also for Dante audio. any needs like that that's native to Q-SYS. And then LAN B is there also if you wanted to run a separate network, let's say for your reflect monitoring for a corporate network or for the facilities network, you're able to run those run those side by side on separate networks. The LAN A port is PoE, but that is 802.3BT type 4, which is PoE plus plus 90 watts. So if you're not able to have a switch that supplies enough power of the 90 watts at PoE plus plus, you are able to locally power that NV32 through an external power supply. All of our HDMIs are fully you can fully route their audio wherever you want to do. So whether you take the audio off of the source side or whether you want to take the audio off of the display side, you can route audio to displays for TVs to use their own internal speakers. You could take multiple sources in and route them to various places within the building. However you kind of want to route that within Q-SYS is fully customizable, but you do have the ability on all our HDMI ports to be able to route the audio off of the video of whatever's going to those sources. As I mentioned earlier, you do still have the 3.5 millimeter TRS inputs and outputs for any other extra audio, analog audio needs that you would have within a space for that.
Sam, real quick,
Yeah,
we got a question on the Q&A. 90 watts. Yeah, it's a hungry little guy. So it's not going to be a full 90 watts, but we need to have 90 watts available for the unit on startup. As it's running, it'll be closer to about 70 watts. But yeah, we need to have PoE plus plus on startup, thus the 48 volt 1.5 amp if you're powering it locally. Thanks.
absolutely. And as we talk more about the NV32, you'll kind of see the power that it can do, and why we kind of require the higher PoE budget, just because the capabilities within this one single box is so flexible and it can do a lot at one time. So we'll first start talking about when it's in peripheral mode. So this would be if it's an encoder or a decoder only. So when you have a couple different options when you set it as an encoder. So you're able to encode up to three streams at one point. That being said, those three streams, due to network bandwidth, will only be 1080p 60. If you're, I think I have a slide in the next one. Yeah, I'll go to the next one first. But you'll if you encode those three streams, you can encode those all simultaneously. You still on the HDMI out one port can locally switch any of those three sources that are going in. So whether that is a let's say at a lectern, if they have a monitor, you're able to route whatever source is going to the projector also to that monitor locally. So the instructor can see what's going on in the projector without having to turn around. Let's say it's for some kind of content ingest into a Teams engine, you're able to also route that directly into there too. Again, that is only on the HDMI out one port when in encoder mode. The other way in encoder mode that you can do is also with 4K 60. Now, in order to get 4K 60, you can only encode one source at a time. If you encode one source at a time and you get that 4K 60 content, you're also able to get that same 4K 60 content out on the HDMI one port. Again, either whether for a confidence monitor or conferencing video ingest, with however you want to use that. When set in decoder mode, you have two options with that as well. So you are able to simultaneously decode two outputs, but if you're only decoding a single output, you're able to go up to 4K 60 as well. Um, and you can locally switch that as well with the three HDMI inputs. If you're wanting to do two displays, you are able to do that. Say you're in a dual monitor Teams mode, or if you have a classroom with a front screen and a back screen, and you want to send two separate content to each one, you're able to do that. But that is again only in 1080p to those displays, which then any content you're bringing in will have to also be 1080p as well. As I mentioned before, in decoder mode, you are able to still use the inputs as a local switcher. You aren't encoding those streams into the Q-SYS platform, but you are able to send those three local sources to the HDMI out in decoder mode. So you're able to, switch between your camera or laptop or any, PowerPoint presentation that you have going on to that, where you can also flip over to an encoded stream somewhere on the network within that space. So let's say you have a wall plate somewhere in the space, and you want to encode that intent and send it to the projector or to a confidence monitor within the room. You are able to do that while also you can later then switch to, let's say an instructor has a laptop plugged in at that same decoder. You can then switch to that source and send that to the display. Same thing here. In decoder mode, you are able to do two displays out. Again, that will then be in 1080p, and you still have that same local switching capability as well as the capability of bringing in any networked video stream that has been encoded with our NV series as well. We make it very simple. To initially deploy our system. So you drag in your NV32 block into your system. You wire up some generic HDMI sources, and then within that NV32 block, it already creates buttons for you to be able to route video wherever you want it to. So you can simply open up your NV32 block, drag those onto a UCI, and you already have simple video switching without having to do any extra scripting or linking any buttons or anything like that. And that is across our whole platform with any NV series as well. I think I see a question here from Jeff. Are you saying when using an encoder from more than one source, the HDMI only outputs 1080p, not just for the encoded output on LAN A? So you just use an encoder from more than one
Yeah,
source.
so I was
Yes.
just
Yep.
going to pop in. You're
Perfect.
absolutely
Yep.
right, Jeff. It's going to follow. You've got an EDID that's being used for all of those encodes. Those encodes are going to be on a 1080p stream if you're encoding three of them simultaneously. So that whatever EDID that you're using on the input is going to match the output of that monitor. So if you're using this only as a single 4K stream, then that can be a 4K monitor. But if you're encoding all of them at 1080p, it's going to match the source.
Absolutely. All right, I'll jump back ahead here. So all of our NV series are powered by our video codec that we call Q-SYS Shift. So Q-SYS Shift is our own proprietary codec that allows us to have very high quality video with very low latency, um, up to resolutions of 4K 60 444 over just a single gigabit network connection. Um, this Q-SYS Shift codec also with how it functions, given us, a network optimized and lower bandwidth codec, also allows us to be able to do those encode three sources on a single gigabit connection as well. So how it works is that it is active. The codec is actively looking ahead to only change the needed pixels as you're sending that video. So let's say you're presenting a standard PowerPoint presentation with static images. Your network bandwidth is going to be a lot less because the actual picture is changing, or the information that is being sent is a lot less. So you're able to have a much lower network bandwidth usage, especially compared to like a JPEG 2000 protocol or anything like that. If you have more of a high motion image, whether that's, video conferencing or you're showing a video, it'll use more bandwidth, but you're still under the JPEG 2000 threshold. And that just gives us a lot of power to be able to adjust the actual usage of that network bandwidth, where it only uses what it needs instead of always requesting the full bandwidth as you're sending video back and forth between our NV devices. Going along with the NV32, so I was talking a lot about the HDMI encoding, decoding, and video switching. You also, as I mentioned previously, you have that USB-B port, so that allows you to bring in any native Q-SYS cameras or in any audio that you have running through your system, and bring that right out to your laptop for a BYOD or BYOM scenario. So someone, you have this NV32 mounted up under a table or a desk. Someone can sit down at their laptop. They have their meeting pulled up. They plug in their HDMI to share their screen to the display within the space. They plug in that USB-B, and now that full meeting is being run from their laptop while using the integrated space with cameras and microphones with just two simple connections at the table or desk without any USB extension or any HDMI over HDBaseT or anything like that. It's all networked, and so your reliability and your reliability is a lot higher, and your point of failures is also a lot lower within these spaces. As I said, you can have, you can encode two streams. So if someone wanted to come in and plug their laptop in and have two sources sent to each display, they would come in, plug in, two HDMIs. They would still be able to plug in that USB-B as well to their laptop, and then be able to have a dual display BYOD conferencing experience to be able to get that, the talking heads on one side and your content on the other side, just to have, the in-person experience be just as great as the far end experience as well.
So Sam, we had a question from Matt. Are there any gotchas with USB peripherals? Well, if you're talking about your connection between your BYOM device, maybe that's a Team Rooms compute uh, or a Zoom compute, there is, the unit is our NV32 is USB 3, right? So if you need to lower that resolution down to USB 2, our device will work with that, but there is a chart within our help file that shows the available resolutions at those different USB speeds. So we absolutely recommend USB 3. We recommend sticking to the cable constraints of USB 3 so that you don't have those, kind of any problems with those connections. In regards to other USB peripherals, say the USB-A connections that are on the back of the NV32, those are there just for HID and very simple, one in, one out audio devices. So those can't be used with, say webcams or anything like that. Q-SYS does not support the extension of that USB 3 from any of our endpoints, mainly because it's a bit of a wild west out there as far as cables and extenders are concerned. We know that Icron is the OEM for a lot of these extenders, but there's some peripherals out on the market that will work with one peripheral, but they won't work with another. So, as such, we like to stick to just the USB 3 standard when it comes to connection to our cores and to our other AV bridging endpoints.
And I believe Jason had a couple questions going along with the USB as well.
Oh, yep.
So yeah, go
USB
ahead.
2 from the I/O bridge. Yes, you can do USB 2 at the I/O bridge, USB I/O bridge device. Again, the same extension rules apply to that, where Q-SYS supports that direct connection only. Your results may vary out in the field, but when you hit us up for support, it's going to be uh, that we will not support any external peripherals in between that AV bridge and your device.
Awesome. So now I talked a lot about the NV32 in peripheral mode, but now we're going to talk about the NV32 in core mode. So the NV32, as I said earlier, can be a peripheral mode, which is an encoder or decoder, and also can carry that USB bridging. But then there's also the core mode. So instead of having a separate dedicated core for space, you can have this NV32 act in core mode, and then you have the ability to then have essentially a local HDMI switcher, a 3x2 HDMI switcher, and still carry that USB-B if you have any Q-SYS cameras or audio within the system. And you still got all the same functionality with your GPIO, your RS-232, your USB-A, HID and speakerphone routing, and still the same LAN ports, and you can still locally power that as well. So this is not in core mode by itself. You are not encoding or decoding any streams from the network. You're just a local 3x2 video switcher while also doing all the audio processing and within the space that you need, or any control processing that you need within the space too. So in core mode, it's a full DSP. You get a 32 in by 32 out networked audio channels. It does have the ability of up to 8 AEC channels. With the NV32, you can have a VoIP soft phone instance on it as well, and you still get the same audio I/O with the HDMI's, being able to route those where you want them to go. Same USB connectivity, and also still the same analog 3.5 millimeter ins and outs as well, and and also the USB HID capabilities as well. So in core mode, you get the same full functionality that any of our other cores get or have with a DSP, and also all the control that goes along with it. But only in core mode, you aren't able to encode or decode in any video streams. It's just a local 3x2 video switcher.
Sam, we got a couple more questions here. I'm going
Yeah,
to answer while you're kind of going between slides if my camera decides it's going to start working or not. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't
there you go.
know. So when will there be an USB AV bridging device wall plate? That is not on the roadmap, and I'll tell you why that's not on the roadmap because of true USB 3 speeds and cable length limitations. So when we're talking USB-C, C or specifically C, we need that bandwidth for AV bridging. We need that bandwidth for a lot of times display port alternate mode, and that restricts us to a 6 foot cable. And so that 6 foot cable then, restricts the end user from, being able to maybe put a table next to a wall plate or something like that. So that's unfortunately you're not going to see that from Q-SYS. There may be some other products coming along that might fill a similar niche, but wall plate specific, not so much. Um, and second question here was in core mode, can you bring a media cast stream from QSE cameras as sources as well? You absolutely can. They will be output on output one of the NV32H.
Awesome. So, yeah, so with QSYS being, it's a full software-based architecture. You have the reflect side of it, where you're able to fully remote monitor and manage your QSYS systems. We do have Dante licenses that allow you to choose the amount of Dante channels that you need per core, depending on the core and what the core allows for your networked audio channels, ins and outs. Um, these last two licenses are now exist but obsolete. If you're running any Q-SYS system 10.0 and above, it does not require these licenses. If you are running any system, any firmware below 10.0, the designer software will still say you require these. But we now give these out to anybody who is running those any system below 10.0. So these are not for purchase anymore. But any designer version before 10.0, you still need these. And you can find that on our QSYS help online, I believe. Is that correct, Jason?
I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. Any
Yep.
additional feature licenses, things like that. Whatever your needs are on a per core basis, all available within help.qsys.com.
Okay, cool. And then here's just a little side by side of NV32H in core mode versus peripheral mode. So in core mode, you get a lot of these features that you get or sorry, in peripheral mode, you get a lot of the features that you get in core mode. But the one, difference that I talked about earlier is that in core mode, you aren't able to encode or decode any streams without a feature license. And then in peripheral mode, you still get all the same USB AV bridging, advantages. You get the remote monitoring, but you don't get that DSP side of the NV32. So going along with that, we do have now a an NV32 video streaming feature license. So this does allow you to have a 32 NV32 run in core mode, but also be an encoder or a decoder. So natively, without that license, you can run an NV32 in core mode, and it's just a 3x2 HDMI switcher, or you can run it in peripheral mode, which means it's an encoder or decoder. But with this feature license, you're then able to run essentially the best of both worlds, with the NV32 being a core and also being able to be an encoder or decoder with all the same AV bridging, RS-232, GPIO, advantage that you have with that single device. And that's kind of what I just talked about. There's another slide there. So again, you have it allows you to basically combine the functionality, and that way you don't need a separate, instead of buying a separate core processor, if you want an NV32 to be in peripheral mode, you can just add on that feature license. And now you have, a core processor and an encoder or decoder all in that same box without any extra devices or using up any extra network ports on your switch or anything like that. More licenses. We do have one more license in our repertoire that when it comes to the conferencing portion is that AV bridging license. So this AV bridging license is required for our TSC 101 G3 and TSC 70 G3, which is our 7 and 10-inch touch panels. Those do have a USB-C on the back of them, which allows you to do any AV bridging just like you would do from that same USB-B port on the NV32. You have the capability to bridge at those touch panels, but you do need the AV bridging license just for our touch panels in order to enable that. Our licenses are pretty simple, so there's kind of two different ways as far as how you can deploy them. So if your core is connected to the network, or as far as the internet, you are able to then put in an entitlement ID. It registers to our licensing server, and then you automatically add those licenses associated with that entitlement ID right to the core. If your core does not have internet connection, you go to our software website or our software license website. You will then put in that entitlement ID, and then it will then email you a local file or email you a file to locally install the associated licenses to that core as well. Now we're going to get into another device in our NV series is the NV21HU. So NV networked video, 21 means two in, one out, and then HU is HDMI and USB-C. The NV21 has a lot of advantages similar to the NV32, but it's just kind of a big brother, little brother scenario to where you have a lot of the same capabilities and functions as the NV32. But there are scenarios and spaces where your NV32 is just, you don't need three HDMI inputs and two HDMI outputs. You just need, maybe a simple display with some control or a more of a BYOD or BYOM solution at a table. The NV21 fits super well in those scenarios. So going from right to left here, backwards again, you do have the HDMI output for able to be up to 4K 60 444. You have the HDMI input again, also up to 4K 60. And then something that's different on our NV21 versus our 32 is this USB-C. So this USB-C is a video input with display alt mode, so we're able to send that 4K or 4K content to a display within their space. But then also you are able to get AV bridging on that same single cable. So instead of with the 32, you would have to plug in an HDMI and the USB into a laptop. With an NV21, you can just plug in a single USB-C cable You get that content display to, or that content to your display. You get your AV bridging with your cameras and mics within the space. And then if you locally power this NV21 with our power supply, you then get up to 60 watts of charging all on that single cable. So this is very big and very huge advantage in spaces where you want to have a single cable, single spot to plug in, run your meeting. And you're able to do that with this NV21 while also being able to charge your device during that meeting as well. This does also have RS-232 for any third-party device control, whether it's display or lighting within the space. It does have a USB-A. That's the same USB-A port as on the NV32s, but there is only one for here for any HID devices or a pretty simple speakerphone that you're able to bring into Q-SYS. There is just one LAN port on this NV21 that is PoE Type 3, which is PoE++ at 45 watts. Less than the 32, but it still requires PoE++, and it's 45 watts. And then you do on the far left side do have the ability to locally power that. Again, you can locally power that if your switch doesn't supply enough power for your NV21. And you can also locally power that if you want that device charging through that USB-C as well. So as I mentioned, big advantage here with the USB-C is that it's one connection and you get your video distribution, you get your AV bridging, and you can also charge all through a single connection um, through the NV21. Similar to the NV32, is that the NV21 can be an encoder or a decoder. It cannot be a core, so this is only a peripheral within the Q-SYS platform. But again, it is software definable within Q-SYS Designer as far as how you want the device to function, whether it's an encoder or decoder, or how you want to route audio within the space. So in encoder mode, you have some options here. So similar to our NV32, is that if you're encoding one stream, you are able to get that 4K 60 content while still having the HDMI out as a local output, whether it's to a confidence monitor or any content ingest into a conferencing compute. And then same thing with the USB-C. If you're encoding that one video stream, it's still up to 4K 60 as well. Still gives you your bridging while also sending 4K content to the display, and you still have the HDMI out as a confidence monitor for you. Let me go back one slide here. It's not mentioned on this slide, but you are able to encode USB-C and HDMI in at the same time, and still have that local content output. Again, just as the NV32, if you're encoding more than one stream, it automatically will go down to a 1080p video stream, and then your HDMI out for your confidence monitor will also be a 1080p video to your display. So just kind of a good rule of thumb across all of our NV series devices. If you are encoding one stream, you have the ability to send 4K 60 content to your displays. If you are encoding more than one stream, so whether that's two or three, depending on what you have available, it can only be in 1080p. In decoder mode, you obviously have the HDMI out to take that decoded video signal out to your display. And then you also still have kind of the local switching there. So you're able to plug in a local device, whether that's in through the HDMI in or the USB-C, and send that to the display as well. That USB-C in decoder mode can still be a bridge um, for whether it's for a laptop or for a conferencing compute. So you could, maybe have this NV21 decoding a video signal into a Teams device for that content ingest, and then also use that USB-C as your USB bridging to get the camera and mics that are in the space into your conferencing system as well. So here's kind of a little comparison as far as size-wise between the 21 and the 32. So the NV21 is really good for behind displays. If you don't have a ton of space behind your displays, it's really good for under tables. Both of these do come with ears to be able to screw them to tables. The NV32 you can see is a little taller and a little wider. So the NV32 is a standard half rack. So if it's a 19-inch rack, it's half of that, 1 RU space. And it does come with mounting options to be able to mount the 32, you know, by itself in half rack, or you're able to mount, two NV32s side by side within the same 1 RU. And then it also, again, still comes with those ears, whether you want to mount it on a wall or under a table or anything like that. The last product in our NV series is the NV1HWE. So NV again, networked video. One is just one input, H as in HDMI, and then WE as in wall plate encoder. So this is a two gang wall plate encoder, input only. This cannot be a decoder. But again, you still have the 4K 60 capabilities as any of our other NV series endpoints. You do have a dimmable LED, so that LED you're able to route or control however you want within the Q-SYS world. So if you want the LED to turn on when there's a valid source signal on that HDMI, you're able to do that. And then if someone unplugs that, the LED then dims back down. This does obviously have the LAN port on the back, which is PoE Type 2, which is PoE Plus at 30 watts. So this one requires less power. And not all, but a lot of switches today are PoE Plus capable. And so we do not have the option to locally power these if you so choose, but it is only PoE Plus at 30 watts. These do come with you can get a conversion kit that makes these black wall plates. So any space where it's maybe more if it's of a production space or anything like that, where you want to a little bit lower profile, you don't really want to see it in those spaces. You are able to flip these over to having a black faceplate as well.
Sam, real quick
Yep.
on the NV1. It is a wall plate, not a floor box plate. You'll notice that we've got active ventilation on the front panel of that plate, so we're drawing in and exhausting out the other side. So that means if it's in a floor box, now it's in a confined space, maybe a lid is closed, things like that, and you're not going to get proper ventilation. So it'll work for a little bit, but if you don't want to replace these guys, make sure that they don't go into floor boxes. This is a wall plate only product.
Yep. It's a good thing to know.
The black conversion kit bill that could be ordered either through our parts website or support, or there is a part number on it for the NV1 insert kit black just through standard purchasing.
So this is our full NV lineup here. You got the 32 that is core capable, which means it can be a peripheral or a core or both if you have the extra streaming license. Again, a little recap on that is 332, so 3 in, 2 out, has the USB-B for your AV bridging, and then it is PoE++ at 90 watts, or you can locally power it. The NV21, so 2 in, 1 out. It can only be a peripheral, so only an encoder or a decoder. You have the 2 in, which is one HDMI, one USB-C in, and then you have the 1 out, which is the one HDMI out. You still have the same AV bridging capability with that USB-C. And then again, this is also PoE++ at 45 watts. And then you are able to locally power it if your switch doesn't supply enough power for the NV21, or if you want to locally charge a laptop at 60 watts or up to 60 watts through that USB-C. Then the last one, the NV1. So this again is just a single HDMI input wall plate. Only peripheral mode, only an encoder, one input, no bridging, and it's just PoE plus as well at 30 watts. So all these products play really really well together with each other through our whole Q-SYS OS. Where everything is software definable as far as how you want a 32 or a 21 to function, whether that's as an encoder or decoder, how you want to route any USB HID if you're wanting to do, or any USB AV bridging. It's all software definable, so there's no confinement as far as what a device really can do. at the hardware level, it's all just, how is the system going to talk to each other? How am I telling this MV21 how it's going to work and, behind a display versus at a table versus, maybe in a rack. And same thing with the 32, how is it going to function behind a display or, maybe it's my rack PC with some USB HID routing capabilities. So, very powerful stuff to where your SKUs and your design time is minimized due to um, we don't have a wide range of products in the NB series, but the three products that we have can do anything that you would possibly need for any video distribution, AV bridging, or anything like that. So it just really simplifies your designs, simplifies your physical deployment of these devices, and then also your programming and commissioning deployment of these devices as well. I'm now going to talk about, a couple designs as far as you walk into the space and how would I kind of design the space based off of, what I want. So we'll kind of start with, a simple little conference room here. So you've got, these are two laptops here. You have two NV21s at the table. You have a couple of our NMT1 Q-SYS microphones. You have two of our 80 series loudspeakers. Those would be the networked, or no, these would be the analog line. You have one of our touch panels on the table. You have two of our cameras under display, and then you have two more of our column speakers up front. So again, I mean, or and then in the rack you have, you can use one of our switches. You have an NV32 in core mode, also with that streaming license as a decoder for that display. You have one of our SPA Q amps, which is a smaller series of our networked amplifiers where you're able to send any audio within the Q-SYS system to the amplifier over the network and not having to physically send it there into the amp. Let's say you have a rack PC, and then you also have a wireless presentation receiver behind the display. So in this scenario, pretty simple design to have a conference room that has a multitude of options of how you want to use it. So let's say you walk in with your laptop and you want to use the cameras and mics and speakers for your laptop. You plug in through that USB-C at an NV21. I am now sharing content to that display as the NV32 is decoding the video stream I'm sending. My laptop is also getting that USB AV bridging through that same USB-C, and then I'm able to share any audio from my laptop to the speakers, and then also any of the cameras and mics, whatever they're capturing audio or video wise, that is now being sent back to my laptop as well, and I'm fully running that meeting just by walking in, plugging in, and starting my meeting. Another scenario with this same exact setup is if you have an installed rack PC here, so or call it maybe a room PC. Um, let's say if this space was a little bit bigger and you had let's maybe like a USB keyboard and mouse issues to control that PC, you could plug that little dongle into one of these NV21 encoders, and then be able to route the USB HID back to that PC. That PC also is sending its video stream into the NV32 for that local switching in decoder mode. And then it's also got this yellow USB cable for its bridging. So someone could walk in and they want to use the room PC. They wake up the computer, switch to room PC on the touch panel, pull up, your Teams or Zoom or Google Meet, and then they can start the meeting and use all the same peripherals within the space as far as the NMT1 microphones and the Q-SYS cameras to be able to run their conferencing within that space. You then also still have that wireless presentation receiver. So if you had if you connected to that wireless presentation system, whether it's from a laptop or however that system works, you then could select your touch panel and say, hey, and I want a wireless presentation, and be able to just do some local meeting content shared within that space as well. All with the same devices, you have a lot of functionality within that space, and the deployment's simple. As most of our endpoints, besides obviously our analog speakers, are all just networked endpoints, and it's no direct connections over CAT or anything like that. This you can also show this as a kind of a little bit of a bigger space. So this is would be in a restaurant. So you have, your displays all the way around for people to watch, sporting events or the news or whatever they want to watch while they're sitting there and eating some food. You can use our same speakers for your audio distribution. So, as I mentioned earlier, you can pull off audio off of any HDMI. So, I mean, if you want to listen to within the space what this third display is, you can just pull that audio off of the HDMI, send that to the speakers, and now they're listening to that display. Let's say in an instant you wanted to change to this bottom left display, whatever's, if say it's playing a different game. Um, you can easily, by the click of a button, pull the audio off of this NV21 down here, and then also route that audio within the space too. In the rack over here, we have two NV32s. These are in peripheral mode only, since we do have a separate dedicated Core 8 Flex. Um, so you would then have, your satellite receivers, just going to the NV32s. Those are, three streams per NV32 being encoded, then being able to be fully routable to any display with the NV21s in decoder mode here as well. You got, a Q-SYS core to process the audio and control the space. And then you also have our Q-SYS CX series, which is our bigger networked amplifier to run the speakers in the space. With these 21s as well, as you can see, there's two cables coming out to the displays. So that pink would be the one for the HDMI. And then that, bluish purplish color is your RS-232 serial to control, yeah, power on and off or anything that you would want control over for those displays.
So real
And
quick,
yeah,
Sam, I really like this example, but think of this more in terms of the higher ed space, where you've got an instructor who can push their content to small pods, have that content be there, and then your students then can plug in an HDMI, be able to work on maybe group projects, things like that, and then push that HDMI up out to everybody's you know uh, display through the instructor's PC. So, either locally presenting because it's the decoder or the instructor's presenting to everybody all at once. So, it really makes it great for those breakout applications.
absolutely. And that is all I have today.
So we had some really good questions on the Q&A. We had about 23 different questions. Hopefully, uh, the answers were satisfactory and some of them not too nebulous. We really appreciate you guys taking time to hop on this webinar with us today on Designing with NV. Thank you, Sam. You did a great job. Um, let's see. Yep, Sam Overlock, you got a really good uh, comment there responding to Tim. I think I'd rather have simpler encoders, build your own matrix instead of having one large box. Yeah, I mean that's the debate. Do I have small devices just where I need them? Do I have larger devices in an IDF? And really we're in the mode of giving you the tools that you can use to kind of solve both of those problems. We know we're not going to have every possible little black box imaginable out on the market, and we kind of don't aim to. We kind of aim to do what we can, the best that we can with the products that we have available, and not put out a million different little products and have each one of them fit a specific little niche. So again, thank you everybody who was on our webinar today. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you guys taking time away from work to learn a little bit more about Q-SYS. And if you have any more questions on the NV series, designing with NV, using NV as a core, make sure you hit up either your local sales rep or your local distributor that can also uh, get a hold of us as application engineers. You've got quite a few applications engineers throughout the United States to assist you with this stuff. So what's the roadmap for multiple 4K encoders? Same box. That one's going to be a ways out there, mainly because we want to be able to work with existing network infrastructure. So we don't want to have to force that update to a 10 gig system for a client if they don't want to have that separate AV network. They want to put everything on their own network. Cool. Let's do that. Let's work within the constraints that are available to us and kind of not force that hand of the customer. So again, thanks everybody. Sam, great job. Really appreciate you doing this one for us today. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you out there.
Thank you all.